lesson 28 is simplifying rational expressions. Alright, so every single time we're going to have an expression. Most of the time we're going to have an expression on the top and on the bottom. We need to be able to simplify these down to make things easier on us. Whether it is graphing it, whether it is later on finding limits to things, you can always simplify fractions, and most of the time it'll help you do what you need to do here. Alright, but first, as it says, is we need to find any excluded values. An excluded value is what are the numbers that will not make this true? Well, whenever you have a fraction, there is no way that you can ever divide by 0. So with this first one here, to find our excluded value, our first step is to set the bottom equal to 0 and see what x cannot equal. Well, we take the square root of both sides here, so x cannot equal 0. That is our excluded value. X cannot equal 0. From there, then we just need to simplify the expression. Well, we've got 6 x's on the top, 2 on the bottom. 2 can go away, that makes this a 4. To simplify this, this one just turns into x to the 4th as long as x does not equal 0. Alright, so it works for any number out there except for 0 here. Going to our next one, you have to find your excluded values first, because as you can see, we can simplify again, right? Those x minus 7s are going to go away, but we have to set this bottom equal to 0 first. So we would add the 7 over. X cannot equal 7. So that's our excluded value. Then to simplify, as we said, that cancels with that. Our answer is going to be x plus 3 as long as x does not equal 7. Alright, so that's all we're doing today. Alright, identify excluded values. Well, once again, for our first one, set the bottom equal to 0. And solve for, in this case, solve for y. So divide by 8, y squared equals 0, take square root, y cannot equal 0 again. Alright, for our fraction here, let me rewrite it. From here, we're going to cross things out. Our y squared, or our y's, we have 2 on the bottom and 3 on the top, so we're going to get rid of 2 of them. We still have that y there, be careful with that. 4 and 8, 4 goes into both of those, we'd have a 2 left over on the bottom. So we would end up with y over 2, once again, as long as y does not equal 0 there. Going to our next one. As you can start to see here, whenever you only have variables without any plus or minus signs, it is going to be a 0 here. So z cannot equal 0. And then if we simplify, we've got 1z on top, 5 on the bottom. That means we can cross off the 1, make this a 4. Our answer is 1 over z to the 4th, as long as x doesn't equal 0. For our next one, this one's a little bit more complicated. Set the bottom equal 0. We got to divide by 15. So 3x minus 4 equals 0. Add 4. Divide by 3. X cannot equal 4 thirds. From there, we need to simplify this down. Now the 10 and the 15, as you can see, are going to simplify down to a 2 and a 3 because 5 goes into both of them. But if you look at our two things in parentheses, they are really close to the same. Alright, and what we can do here, if we wanted this bottom to stay as a 3x minus 4, how do I get this 3x to be positive? Well, I'd run a -1 through, or I'd factor a -1 out. If I factored a -1 out of this top one here, it would turn into -4 plus 3x, which is exactly the same as 3x minus 4. So that would simplify with that. This thing would simplify all the way down to -2 thirds, but once again, as long as x doesn't equal 4 thirds. Alright, next one. We got some more work here. Now, with this, my first step, this is all an expression. Whenever you see an expression, put parentheses around it, because what I constantly see is, well, I've got an x squared there, and there's an x, 4 and 2 simplify to 2, 6 and 3 simplify to 2, 2 minus 10 plus 2, divided by 1. Well, no, you can't do any of that because that's all an expression. So instead, put parentheses around it, and that tells you the only way you can cross something out if it's inside the parentheses is if it's exactly the same on top and bottom, like it was right here. That's why we could cross those off. Right now it doesn't look like we have anything in common, but we've got to factor this out to be able to tell. So, 2 sets of parentheses, we know we've got an x and an x. Signs are the same, they're both minuses. And then to plug in our numbers, a 4 is 1, 4, 2, 2, or 4, 1. 6, 1, 6, 2, 3, 3, 2, 6, 1. Hopefully we can guess right away. Let's see, I think I'm going to go with a 2, 2 here. And we'll try a 2 and a 3. Let's see what happens here. We've got negative 6 minus 4. Negative 6 minus 4 does give us negative 10. Now, I already forgot a step. Your first step to factoring should be to take out whatever you can, and that would have made things easier. Okay? Well, I didn't. Does that mean that I can't fix it? Well, no. If you look at this, you can take a 2 out of that. So if we take a 2 out of there, we're left with x minus 1. And then the other one is 2x minus 3. Alright, so can we do that down here? Well, no, there's nothing that goes into all three of them. But I don't like having a minus a value there. So I'm going to factor out a negative 1 right away. And then I'm left with 2x squared plus x minus 3. Okay, so then I bring that negative 1 down here, and now I can hopefully factor this thing a little bit. 2x squared is a 2x and an x. Signs are different, okay, right? That's what that means. So I'm going to make this a plus and this a minus. All right, and then 3, we've got to throw a 3 in there. So I'm going to go 3 here and 1 here, and then remember we got to check to see if we get a positive x there. So we've got 2x minus 3x gives us a negative x. We were close. We've got to fix it because our number was right but the sign was wrong. That tells me I just need to fix my signs here. So I'm going to make this a plus, this a minus, check to make sure. Negative 2x plus 3x gives me a positive x, and there we go. Now from here, we're going to simplify, all right, but we haven't found excluded values yet. Now that we have it all factored out, this is when we need to find our excluded values. So x cannot equal, set this equal to 0, negative 3 over 2, and positive 1. So x can't equal either one of those. Cross off the x minus 1s. We would have 2 times 2x minus 3 over, and because I've got 2 divided by negative 1, I'm going to move this negative up here. It's not going to change anything. On the bottom, 2x plus 3. Remember, that's still in parentheses there, so we can't cross anything out. So fully simplified is this answer right there. Okay, moving on to the next one. Let's simplify first. Let's take out a negative 2 here. So we're left with x squared plus 2x minus 15. Take out a 3 on the bottom. X squared plus 7x plus 10. Alright, now we're ready to factor. Remember to bring down the negative 2 and the 3 here. Top. Let's see, that looks like x plus 5, and x minus 3 to me. Check it, negative 3 plus 5 gives us positive 2, so that works. For the bottom, x and x signs are the same. A 10, well that's 5 and 2. Alright, this is where we check to see what we cannot have as answers here. Set our factors equal 0, the 3 doesn't matter. Alright, this one here, we'd subtract a 5, so it can't equal negative 5 or negative 2. So that's part of our answer. And then we simplify from here, the x plus 5's go away. Our answer is negative 2 times x minus 3 over 3 times x plus 2. Alright, so it doesn't look a ton simpler, but technically it is because we took out these x plus 5's here. Alright, one more to go. A basketball is a sphere. Write a simplified rational expression for the volume to surface area ratio of a basketball. Alright, well, we need to know the volume equation for a sphere and the surface area equation for a sphere. Well, surface area, I remember as surface area is kind of like distance around, which is kind of like circumference. Remember, circumference is 2 pi r. Well, to get our surface area, we square our 2 and we square our r. So we have 4 pi r squared. For our volume, remember volume is always raised to the third, so our r is going to be raised to the third. Our pi doesn't change. You know how we have this 4 here? To get the number out in front, we take this number, divide by 3. And that's honestly how I remember it every single time. Alright, so we just need to simplify things down here. Well, our pi's are going to go away. We've got 2 r's here and 3 r's there, so we're going to be left with an r on the top. So what we have is we have 4/3 r divided by 4. Well, we have a fraction in a fraction, so then we have to take 4/3 r times the reciprocal of the bottom. So that would be a 1/4. Well, then these 4's cancel out. Our answer is 1/3 r. And that's it. Then we need to find the ratio if the diameter is 9 inches. Well, the diameter is 9, that means our radius is 4.5 inches. So we just plug that in. For r here, 1/3 times 4.5 gives us 1.5 inches here. And there is our answer. Any questions on this? Please let me